Hello, I'm Father Timothy Barr from the Diocese of Rockford, Illinois. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about being a different way of thinking in the explanations that the Church may give. The Church may give answers from many different perspectives, say from somebody who is an atheist, and so they might be looking for that good old, where does it prove it in science? Give me some concrete facts. And so the church and science will be able to prove things, and not necessarily prove, but point to the reality of God and the spiritual realities. Somebody of a Protestant faith might say, just give me good scripture. Scripture, I don't trust anything else outside of scripture, so I want to go with scripture. So we are able to answer questions from scripture. One of the things that's nice about the Catholic Church, we start to see how the pieces of the puzzle come together when it comes to spiritual realities, whether it's moral realities or any other aspects of theology. And so we do use science, but we don't just use science, we also use faith and reason, but scripture. And so we pull from both aspects of these to confirm what scripture says. And so this is what we do and how we explain things. So we have universal tools that will help us discover the truths of the faith. So God gives us scripture, and God gives us also the physical world. There is no contradiction between the two. If there would be, God would be contradicting himself, and God doesn't contradict himself. So there is no contradiction. However, we start to see in the modern world today that sometimes politics guides science, and as well as sometimes our understanding of what our religion is. And so we have to get rid of those political agendas and put things in the context as they truly are. What does, in fact, the Church teach? What does, in fact, the science teach? What are the findings of true science in higher knowledge and higher education? So we have to look at it in an objective way. We find out a lot of things about the world around us, and we look at how God created the world, and we marvel at that. And so we can use science in that creation. Science points to faith. It does not prove it. There comes a point in time where we have to make that leap and say, I see the reasonableness for this. It's kind of like somebody who gets accused of something, and then they go through a court and they are found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And so if we can put people in jail for enough evidence of beyond a reasonable doubt, then we can have faith because of the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. And that gives us that ability to say, you know what, I can take that leap in faith. Another way of looking at it is that we may have faith in a friend. Why? Because we have a reason why we can believe that they are a good friend. Because we have this experience with this person. An experience that is very positive. If we have a negative experience, then we take on faith that if they lie, we take on faith that they're constantly lying and that we don't believe them. It's in a similar way with God. If we believe in him, we have a reason to believe in his things. We have an experience, an encounter with God. And that's why we are able to believe. Human reasoning with Scripture, we were able to use that. It's not Scripture alone. It's not human reason alone or science alone. We integrate them together, and that makes it more integrated and more full explained meaning. And we grow in wisdom because of that. Explanations may use philosophy, right? So we use philosophy, the mother of all sciences, so that we can truly learn and understand the things about the world. And then once we discover those things about the world, we discover things about God. It's like paintings. When we see a painting like a Picasso or anything like that, we see the art critics. We don't necessarily understand the art critics. They look at the strokes of the brushes and all this other stuff. It reveals something about the creator of that artwork. Something within that person gets transformed onto the canvas. And sometimes we even see that with our children. Our children take the crayons and they mark all over on the paper, and they have fun, and they give it to their parents and say, "Look what I made. This is you, Mommy. This is you, Daddy." And what do? What do the parents do? They cherish that. Why? Because there is something inside that child that got transformed onto that piece of paper. And it's something beautiful. And that's also with creation. When we look at creation, that is God's canvas. Something beautiful inside of him was transformed. And so when we go for a walk out in nature, we see the deer and the animals and the squirrels and the rabbits, and we see how beautiful everything is. The sunsets, the sunrises, the reflection on the waters. All that reflects something beautiful about God. And so we can look at the world around us and discover something beautiful about God. And God teaches us in all of these things. So in all this thing, we see how everything starts to gel together and the pieces of the puzzle come together. And we start to see there is truly no contradiction between faith and reason, between Scripture and science.